And thank you for joining us, everyone. I'm Ron Corning, once again back with you, Forward DFW, together with the Dallas Morning News as we move education forward. This is part of a series of podcasts helping you navigate the coronavirus pandemic. We are talking about International Leadership of Texas. What is it exactly? It's a charter school system that serves almost 20,000 students in Texas, and we'll be talking about how they're making leadership part of their curriculum. Also, going virtual. This school, like so many others, shifted during the pandemic in such a way that it could be a case study for other private and public schools all over the country, how to do it right. And you may have the question, is this for me? Our goal here, when this is over, if you're a parent and asking, is this for you and your student, this kind of education, our goal here is to make sure that you have the answer to that question before we wrap it up. And we're going to do that with the help of Superintendent of International Leadership of Texas, Eddie Conger, who's joining me now with more on this charter school system. As we said, Superintendent Conger serving almost 20,000 students, and we're talking DFW, but also as far south as Houston and College Station.
Absolutely.
And you founded this school how many years ago?
Yes, we started International Leadership of Texas in 2012 with a very unique mission statement, and that is for us to prepare kids for exceptional leadership roles in the international community by emphasizing servant leadership, mastering English, Spanish, and Mandarin Chinese, and strengthening the mind, the body, and the character.
Now, I look at your bio and I see that you've taught elementary school, you've taught middle school, you've been an assistant principal, you've been in administration, you've also been in the military. I see your fingerprints all over this because this is a school that is in many ways reflective of your own experience and the best of your own experience, one being the discipline of the military intact, would you say, in order to provide structure for students who need it?
Absolutely. Bringing 20 years of experience, having served as an infantry officer in the United States Marine Corps, coming into education as a teacher, it gave me an opportunity to ask a lot of questions. Why are we doing it this way? Why aren't we doing it a little different? But bringing that different type of experience into the education world has been very, very beneficial, helping us to make sure that we're providing order and structure and expectations for students is contributed to our success.
And as we look at the images of students in the classroom, we're also seeing images of them outside of the classroom. And that's what we're going to talk about here coming up in the next little bit, is how you've shifted from that classroom on campus living, because in some cases exchange students are living on campuses, to a virtual way of learning that, as I suggested, could be a case study for how to do it right for other schools. But we want to explain to people some of the basics if they're not really sure, and that is how a charter school differs from a public school. It's not a private school.
Correct.
Students aren't enrolled with tuition. You are state funded.
Correct.
And an alternative to a public school. So under what circumstances do you think a parent might look to your school as an alternative for their own child?
Part of the reason that the legislature created charter schools is to provide innovation. And each charter school is supposed to be doing something very, very different. For us, it's the language and the leadership, along with that structure. Parents that want their children to learn 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Chinese, who want their kids to be prepared for exceptional leadership roles, they would be the parents that would be interested in bringing their kids to be part of our family.
So I want to delve a little deeper into the value of this kind of education and the kinds of students who you draw. It really is a wide range, is it not? You may have a student who's exceptionally bright but bored.
Yep.
Gifted but bored. You may have a student who, because they're bored, maybe act out with bad behavior. That could be a reflection of my own life. My mother could have probably used this for me around 3rd grade. So I mean that seriously. I mean, I was bored in 3rd grade and they talked about putting me ahead of grade, but we had no options outside of the public school district. So this would be an option for a child who learns differently and is bored with a regular curriculum.
Absolutely. Any student who is bored, any student who wants to do something a little different, any student or parents who want their kids to be more well-rounded with the character, with the leadership, with the physical fitness, with the languages, they are going to be prepared in a significantly different way than a traditional school.
Well, you're getting a multicultural experience as well because you've got students who are from all over the world.
Yeah. And we have teachers from all over the world. We have 100 Chinese teachers throughout our system. We also have 100 J1 teachers from other countries, from Spain to many other Central American, South America countries as well. And that brings a level of diversity into the school system.
Explain something to me because graduation rates are something that we talk about a lot. Okay, so you worked at Thomas Jefferson over a 4-year
Yes.
period. Yes. And the graduation rate went from 52% to 81%.
Yes.
Which is a huge accomplishment. You're claiming a 100% graduation rate from
Yes.
International Leadership of Texas.
Yes, it is about 100%. Unfortunately, in the last 4 years, there have been a case or two of unique student situations that not every student has been able to graduate, but it's 99% of the students have graduated.
And of those 99%, I can imagine that there are other students who, had they gone a different route and stayed in the public school system, might not have graduated. Do you get involved with particular family situations and particular family dynamics that might, in other cases, limit a student from graduating?
Absolutely. And the way we do that is, even though charters are not required to have counselors, we have over 40 counselors at International Leadership of Texas. The way that we're organized is very much the way that the Marine Corps would organize. There is a grade level administrator over every single grade level, and they are responsible for everything that happens or fails to happen for that grade level. And they're supported with an assistant principal and a principal. Failure is not an option. We provide multiple opportunities for kids to demonstrate mastery learning, which is completely different than just getting an A or a B or a letter grade. We do not allow kids to fail.
Are you getting feedback from those students who go on to college and are admitted into college from the college admissions offices about where your students fit in the scheme of things? What sort of feedback are you getting, if any?
Well, it's been incredible. This year, with 408 graduating seniors, we have over $33 million that those students have earned. And our children are getting into the top universities in America. We have 25 students who are going to 25 of the top 25 schools in America. Stanford, University of Chicago. It's been incredible. The admissions officers, the things that we're hearing from them is the kids are totally owning this concept of servant leadership and others before self. And so when they're talking to our students, the students are talking about not only graduating from that university, but how they are going to reach out to change the world in a positive way.
So others before self, and you've seen that come into play in real tangible ways during this COVID-19 pandemic, have you not?
Absolutely. Not only with the American students, with some of our schools in China, our kids raised over $25,000 here in the U.S. At the beginning of this pandemic. But as everyone knows, it kind of shifted, and all of a sudden we were hit hard by it. And in that process, some of our students in China, understanding servant leadership, they raised money, and they have shipped 20,000 N95 masks to our country.
It occurs to me as I'm talking to you, were you mindful of and aware of the possibility of this pandemic before maybe other institutions because of what you were hearing from your students who had family in China?
I would say yes. We have friends and folks and students that are in China, so we were watching what was happening there in January and saw how they were closing, but not really expecting it to happen here as fast as it has happened.
Yeah, that was my question. Yeah. Did you expect? In the back of your mind, did you think, well, we're going to have to make a shift at some point? We may be teaching our children virtually and distance learning and all of that, and how that might be done?
We did not start truly thinking about that until a week before spring break. Unfortunately, I personally was thinking that it would not be as bad as it is. But we were able to make that shift during that spring break timeframe.
And that's what we want to talk about next, how you
Okay.
made that shift, what learning looks like now, and what learning could look like not only for International Leadership of Texas schools, but also what it could look like for other schools across the country. Again, ILTexas is a charter school system. There's no tuition to enroll. There's the cost of a uniform, and they provide an alternative education that might fit your child's needs. And we'll talk more about that in just a moment. In the meantime, here's how you can learn more. And there it is, iltexas.org. That's how you can learn more. You can also learn more from Dr. Laura Carrasco, who's joining us via Zoom right now to talk about the academic programs there and how they shifted to a virtual world. She is the Chief Academic Officer. She's the CAO. That's a big title. She's joining us now. And Dr. Carrasco, I'm curious to know what it was about getting involved with International Leadership of Texas that appealed to you.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for having me. Good to see you.
You as well.
So again, I have the privilege of serving International Leadership of Texas as Chief Academic Officer. This is now my 8th year as CAO, and I'm also a proud ILTexas parent. And for me, really, it was the language and leadership. The mission of ILTexas was near and dear to my heart professionally as well as personally as a parent.
I feel like sometimes in this country, and correct me if I'm wrong, we tend not to connect the dots effectively, in that early education is really important for long-term success. And I think learning a second, and in your case, a third, even fourth language on your campuses is incredibly important, and even how the brain develops and how we process information. Can you speak to that a little bit and the importance of that, and explain to me why, I don't know, public school districts haven't caught on to that?
Well, you're correct. It does help. It's beneficial to start early, to start young. However, you're never too young or too old to start learning a second, or in our case, a third language. We start at ILTexas at kindergarten to teaching English, of course English, but Spanish and Mandarin Chinese. To answer your second question, I think a lot of times people just get focused on the essentials, just the bare minimum. What I also appreciate about ILTexas and Mr. Conger's leadership is he thinks big. We like to think big. We're thinking how our kids in the future can change the world, and we recognize the value of learning a second and a third language will help mold that student and develop that kid to be able to think more critically, promoting a global understanding and developing them as leaders as well.
Well, I certainly don't want to diminish the value of public education and our school districts and our teachers, because they do a tremendous job. But the fact of the matter is, you're providing even that much more to students who, even entering college, aren't as behind the curve as maybe I was, coming from a smaller town in a public school district. And what I'm wondering, and I'll direct this to Superintendent Conger, what I'm wondering here is, you're generally readily available with open enrollment, with no cost of tuition. And why, I mean, I'm surprised there's not a wait list, because there are underserved communities all over the country, but in the state of Texas, that are underserved by public education. So how are you seeing your enrollment stack up, and where is that leading under the circumstances?
We currently have just over 19,000 students. For next year, we have 21,450 so far that have actually enrolled for next year. We have great support from the state to be able to expand, and we're looking for those different opportunities to provide this type of education. But when we say underserved, I'm not talking about just a low socioeconomic area. The education that we're providing is unique and different regardless of which school district that you start. When we opened in Keller, Texas, there was 1,416 kids who came to our school the very first day. And Keller ISD is a great school district, and others are great school districts out there. But we are providing a unique education opportunity that parents would like their kids to be a part of.
Well, it's gotten even more unique with this pandemic, and we want to talk about that as well. Dr. Laura, explain to me during that spring break when you realized the reality of our situation, that distance learning was going to be the only way, at least for now. What were some of the hurdles you overcame?
It was during spring break that we started planning, so that by day one, after spring break, we were ready to do two things. First, we rolled out our independent study program for our students. So they had 1 week in which they embarked on independent study. That 1 week gave us an opportunity, essentially the 1 week window, to then prepare our teachers and to prepare Chromebooks, distribute Chromebooks, etc. Part of what we did was lay out the framework for what we needed to accomplish every single one of those days, down to the hour of what professional development was going to look like. For example, when teachers came back from spring break, we had that first day where we gave them an opportunity to get ready. The first layer of PD was just on the systems and making sure everybody had a login. And we also focused on the platforms that our teachers were used to, for example, Zoom and Google Classroom and Seesaw. And then subsequently, it was on the student expectations, the curriculum, the instruction, the program model. But yeah, essentially we had 1 week to prepare.
Okay, so what were some of the learning curves? I know that you've designated phase one of this sort of distance learning 1.0 or virtual learning 1.0, and now you've moved on to virtual learning 2.0, which suggests to me that somewhere in there were some lessons learned about how to make it better. So a new generation of virtual learning. Where was the learning curve? What did you learn specifically from that first try?
First of all, I've got to celebrate our teachers. Our teachers are truly amazing. They have done incredible work in shifting from the brick and mortar to the virtual setting. And so a couple of the biggest challenges, one of them was just the reality that it's very different to teach kids face-to-face, live, than it is through this virtual setting, also live. And we do have a synchronous model. We are following essentially the student's daily schedule, except for through Zoom and using some of our other platforms. So the biggest, one of the biggest learning curves, again, was just transferring those good teaching strategies and practices into this box, into this virtual world. Additionally, when we shifted from the first week, our first day of school, 1.0 to 2.0, is thinking through the schedule itself. We made modifications, especially at the elementary level, to the schedule. We also shifted so that now Wednesday for K-12 is primarily an independent study day. And also, and Wednesdays is an opportunity for our teachers to meet as professional learning communities, to prepare as well, and to give kids more off-screen time. And we did that not just by adjusting the schedules, but also through our teaching practices, is educating our teachers on, for example, one of the professional development sessions that we held was the four walls of your online classroom, but it's prepping them to be able to more successfully execute the gradual release model and giving kids more off-screen time in doing so.
So basically 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, which works in person on campus, is not necessarily the best model for virtual time, because there's just something different about being on screen for that length of time. So you've cut that down. And we're going to talk about what it might look like in the fall. But in the meantime, I want to bring in Gillian Breidenbach, who's with Forward DFW at the Dallas Morning News and who spearheads this effort to make sure that we shed light on how our community is dealing with this pandemic and the bright spots in it. And this is one of them, a school that shifted and is, as I suggested at the top of the program, providing a model for others.
I mean, thank God for teachers and thinking big. The fact that we're able to turn 20,000 children in a week. I mean, that is a model for success and innovation. And I think what's great about it, as a parent myself, albeit of college kids, the fact that ILTexas has been able to reduce the anxiety of the children, reduce the anxiety of the parents, provide this continued structure. You'll notice in these pictures, the kids are showing up in their uniform. This is what they're used to. So
they're doing exercise.
They're doing exercise every day. And so the fact that these children are young adults are having their life continue in a very abnormal environment speaks volumes, I think, to Dr. Carrasco and Mr. Conger and what these teachers are able to do for these students so that they aren't having gaps in their learning.
So yes, as parents have been learning more about international leadership of Texas, you're probably wondering, is this for me? And I want to direct this question to Superintendent Conger about what it will look like in the fall. Let's presume, and I know you're working off this model, which is subject to change, that you can have students on campus with social distancing. So how do you structure a school to serve as many students in the time you have when you can only teach half of them at any given time?
Yeah. My crystal ball is a little muddy, but we're going to take this, our goal is to take this virtual school 2.0, but then be able to bring students in on an A-day, B-day type scenario, but still, when the kids are at home, they're still in class in the virtual school. So they'll still be seeing their teachers and they'll still be seeing their peers. And they're still continuing the learning, the languages, the leadership, the physical fitness, but we would looking at only having half of the students physically in the building at any one time.
So any classroom that had 26 students will now have 13, and then on those off days, those students would be learning from home through these Zoom calls. There was a time when we know for a long time about online courses where you put the course online, maybe the teacher has a taped video presentation. What's the importance of this live component of a teacher knowing that they're looking at a student even if they're virtually at home and seeing them live in the moment?
Yeah, this was one of the things that I really pushed hard about. I did not want us to just simply record a lesson and provide that to the student. The kids are going through a very chaotic time right now. Parents are going through a lot of chaos right now, and the families are going through all kinds of chaos. And by providing a little bit of stability and certainty so that the kid is showing up today at their regular scheduled class and they see their friends, they see their peers, they see their teacher. There's something important about that interaction that provides some normalcy that you cannot get in a recorded lesson.
So Superintendent Conger, a lot of parents at home are asking the question after learning more about international leadership of Texas is if this is the kind of education their student needs. Maybe they've wondered, why is this not working? Perhaps you've provided the solution. We want you to go to ILTexas.org for more information. Some of these students travel as far as 20 miles daily one way to get to your charter school. Do you have plans to expand to be more geographically accessible to even more students?
Yes, we do. We have great support from the Texas Education Agency. We hope over the next few years that we're serving kids and families between the Red and the Rio Grande.
Yeah, and you've got a storied chief academic officer, Dr. Laura Carrasco, who joined us as well here via Zoom. Dr. Carrasco, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And thank you, Superintendent Conger, for being here as well. And again, for more information, go to ILTexas.org. I'm Ron Corning. Thank you for joining us, everyone. We'll see you next time. Special thanks to Forward, DFW's founding and supporting partners, for making this coverage possible. Forward DFW was created in partnership with the Dallas Morning News. The goal? To connect companies, causes, and the community and face issues that impact the economy and wellness of North Texas.